Oh my gosh. Good morning, everybody. Oz lost his bumper. Oz lost his bumper.
That's not all Oz is lost.
Yeah, Oz is lost. I woke up with bedhead this morning, you see? There's bedhead. I got bedhead. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Oz. Good morning, Shonda.
Good morning, Chris.
And it's Women's Wednesday, so we have Christine Lund, the natural progressive, and Shanda Masta, the accidental activist, joining us here on Women's Wednesday. And Shanda, you're kind of a regular fixture on the dive these days, right?
Shit, I'm becoming a regular fixture everywhere.
Well, that's good.
On the natural progressive as well. Hopefully you'll be there tonight.
Yeah.
I will be there tonight. I know I've missed a couple of shows. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What are you going to talk about tonight, Christine?
Oh my gosh.
The end of the world or what?
I'm going to let the audience and my guests lead the way because, as you know, I've been really focused on other things. So
I got a couple of things I'm going to bring tonight. We're going to talk about the fluoride lawsuit that's happening with the crooked EPA and their witnesses that are just so horrendous and opportunists. And then the mosquito project where they're about to unleash a million mosquitoes on Harris County in Texas, genetically modified.
That's a bad thing. Oh, bad thing.
Yeah.
Genetically modified mosquitoes? Is that like mutant mosquitoes? They fly down and spear everybody? What?
Well, they're trying to eradicate malaria and Zika by, genetically modifying these mosquitoes.
I think I talked about that in one of my early shows. So, yeah, and they've been planning that for quite a while, and even around our area in Utah, they've been talking about that.
Jesus,
so
take me back.
What could go wrong? What could go
wrong?
Yeah,
what could go wrong? It's not
wrong.
like, Roundup Ready seeds weren't a problem or anything.
It's like Westworld. What could go wrong? Go wrong.
Unintended consequences. You can't go against nature. You can't.
Yeah.
Are they unintended?
You have to work with nature. You can't just try to rebuild nature in whatever form you want. It just doesn't work that way. Right. So anyway, sorry, we're probably totally getting off topic, but
no, we don't have any damn topics on this show. I mean, what the hell? This is good morning.
It's my show. I don't plan. It's like let's just talk, guys.
Yeah, let's just talk. I got to have a shout out to our super regulars, which is Melissa H. and Al Wolski. Good morning, Al. Yeah, guys, it's so nice to see you. We've got some different news items this morning, and we're doing our daily dive, and it's engagement media, as you call it. We've got a couple of different announcements from other shows, but not this show. But I did want to reach out to everybody who's watching, who may be watching in the future. What kinds of ideas would you like this show to go? What kinds of things can we do better? But we've been talking lately, Shanda and myself particularly, about we want to find that lane. We want to find what kind of lane do we want for this show, since all the bigwigs are trying to ratchet social media down and engagement media and news and everything. So that's the big question, is what can we do to make the show more entertaining and more informative besides getting out in the streets and doing what we need to do. So, I just wanted to throw that out there. Ladies, we're going to start off today with Crystal Sager again. The big wealth disparity, the big giveaway of that $5.1 trillion that they did, we've got some news that will maybe surprise some, but not me.
Got some super swampy behavior we wanted to bring to you this morning. So at least 4 members of Congress have benefited from the small business loan program known as PPP. And frankly, could be a whole lot more, but we really don't know because there's no disclosure from the Trump administration. Sagar, the person who attracted the most attention here is Representative Roger Williams from Texas, who owns a chains of car dealerships and car washes and auto body shops. One of the wealthiest members of Congress apparently got money for one of his car dealerships. And again, we don't know who else got money from the program they created, even as many small business owners were struggling to get funds and be able to keep their businesses afloat.
Yeah, I mean, so it's and one of the themes of this show is it's the corruption
It's bipartisan.
is very bipartisan.
Absolutely.
So Roger Williams, and then we have Vicki Hartzler of Missouri, whose family owns multiple farms and equipment suppliers across the Midwest. On the Democratic side, Representative Susie Lee of Nevada, whose husband is the CEO of a regional casino developer. And then Representative Debbie, I want to make sure I say this right, McCarcel Powell of Florida, whose husband is an executive at a restaurant chain that has since returned the claim. And so,
Okay, we won't spend too much time on this because it's like you think, you go figure. How do you ladies feel about all that money being doled out by the foxes who are watching the hen house? What do you think? What do you think?
Not surprising
Yeah.
at all. Like, yeah, really, that's been going on forever. That's why voting doesn't work. Once people get into office, if they're not corrupt before they get there, they will be corrupt because money is a big motivator to do corrupt things, and they have lots of opportunities to make money doing corrupt things, and that's a natural process. That's why our system is broke.
You don't feel that way, do you, Shanda?
Absolutely, I do. But I have small business friends and acquaintances that actually applied for money, and they were told, "Sorry, there's no money left." Well, yeah, there's no money left because the foxes who guard the hen house took it all before actual small businesses could even apply for it.
Well, I guess the big question is how do we end this shit? How do we stop this crap? Because they go on in this. I won't play it through, but they talk about how these big rollers, these high rollers with the banks, get concierge service on these bailouts and everything else, which is, it's to the point. If you've got the money, you're going to get more. If you don't have any money, good luck. So how do we stop this shit? What do we got to do? It's not with our fucking vote, is it?
No, it's not going to happen with our vote. It's, there's some progress made, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later too, with the demonstrations on Black Lives Matter and the policing. That's been more effective than voting is getting out and demonstrating. However, with the pandemic, that's kind of also an issue, and people like me, I can't get out there and protest because I have a condition that would be very bad if I got the COVID thing. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that needs to happen to elicit change. I don't know, unless you have a tech activist that can really mess with them. I don't want to say that out loud, but you know what I'm talking about.
No, I do. I absolutely. And Chris, you are doing something. I mean, just because you can't get out there and surround the Capitol or, you are actually doing so much by having a YouTube channel and getting out there and talking about these issues. So I think, we all just have to figure out how we can contribute and do it. I mean, if you've got the means to get in the streets, absolutely get in the streets. But if you can't, figure out another way to get out there.
Rally people to get out in the streets if you can't get out in the streets, and still encourage people to take as many precautions as possible. Keep your distancing, wear your mask, N95 if possible. But
Jesus.
Sorry, Jesus.
No, that's
and Schulte.
Yeah, Schulte. Is it Jesus or Jesus? No, it's Jesus, right?
It could be Jesus.
It could be Jesus.
It could be either. I'm not gonna Jesus or Jesus.
Yeah,
I don't know, but either way, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, it's great to see you guys, and we appreciate everybody who's watching. And I got to say, no, Shanda's not ingratiating you, Chris, at all, and I don't do that with any of. It's the facts. We're not stuffing our face full of McNuggets and playing video games, which is your choice, but we're actually being engaged. We're all vested in the future of our kids. You both got kids. We've got generations. We've got species that are just dying daily. So if we sit around and just pull on it and not do anything about it, that's bad. And I'm sure that many people who are in the chat here feel the same way. We're actually at least trying to do something, and I'm going to, like I was telling the ladies this morning, I'm going to keep thumping these daily dives out and producing whatever shows I can on social media until you guys just say, that's it, I'm done. So anyway, yeah. I
think our shows cumulatively are attempting to diagnose the problem. There are no solutions without diagnosing the actual problem, and we got to break everything apart and point out hypocrisy and just corruption everywhere we see it. And the more people do that, the more the actual problem is going to get diagnosed. And the more you're diagnosing that problem, the more it leads to politicians. The system is absolutely corrupt. It's the elite against the rest of us. And and that's what we're finding. I mean, that's pretty much no matter what you're talking in any of our genres or our, sub classifications, it all comes down to corruption in the political system and the corporatocracy that we live in. So,
yeah, absolutely. We got a couple of good comments, and this one stood out real quick from Jesus Jesus. Guys, there is no free market. It's created by Congress. Why do you think a bunch of them benefited from insider trading knowledge and also benefited from the bailouts? Of course, we got Kelly Loeffler and Dianne Feinstein, who did all the inside trading. And that's how
they dropped that investigation, by the way. They said there was no wrongdoing.
Oh, my God.
No, of course they did, because they're not going to convict somebody or point out something that they're doing themselves. They're not. They're like, okay, the finger's going to be pointing at me next, so I'm not going to do that. That's the problem with our power structure.
Yeah, blind trust my ass. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Melissa H is talking about how she applied for the PPP loan, and I applied. I don't qualify because I already have lots of debt. Didn't even get the 1,000 I was supposed to get. Of course, they're gonna kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down. I mean, that's where it is. So this great big payoff, the loan disparity and the wealth disparity, they're just giving it to them right and left on a silver platter. And if you think that this Congress, which is dominated by millionaires, and they are millionaires, plutocrats, the club, is going to give us anything more than what they have to do as far as crumbs, they're not going to do it. So again, we've got, I don't think there's, how many members of the Senate are under, 100,000, in wealth? Most of them are millions plus, right?
I don't think a
most of
single
them
fucking one.
Yeah.
Bernie was the only not millionaire, but now he is because
Yeah.
of his book sales.
Because of his book sales and inheritance and things like that.
That's in the Senate. In the Congress,
Yeah.
I'm sure that because there's a lot of new ones, I'm sure there's a lot that aren't millionaires yet, but
They're going to be.
They're
Wait a minute.
Yeah, say what you want about it.
I mean, look at how Ocasio-Cortez is sold out already. I mean,
Ooh,
wow.
God, don't say that. You're going to get yelled at, Chris. She sold out.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
But she sold out. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She sold out. She sold out.
I just, I'll have that discussion debate all day long, but, and we don't walk in her shoes. But when you give a little bit in a situation like that, you're basically going to go all the way. It's just like a drug. You can't just do a little bit and then get off of it. So, the fundraising and everything else. But I digress once again. Just right here, we had a little article about, remember the protests up in New York, the people got arrested? Well, as people arrested during protests, the police brutality sat in jail, the NYPD directed its officers not to testify, delaying their hearings and a chance at release. Public defenders call the move an affront to all notions of meaningful due process. Yeah, there is no due process. It plays into that narrative, like I talked to Shanda in the green room a little earlier, this is a form of striking. Oh, so you're going to give a shit? Well, see how you like this. So, again, what do you ladies think about this one?
That's wow.
Yeah, more victimization of the police. These poor victims, now they can't even come in and do their required job because this is a requirement of being a police officer. You arrest somebody, you got to show up and testify against them, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're just basically saying, okay, well, you're going to give a shit. You're going to talk about defunding us and everything else. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out kicking and screaming because you're not going to win. I'm at a total loss on all this. And one of the things that we caught this morning on the Hill was that Van Jones came out and he was talking about, how what was it, Shanda? Some of what Trump was doing with the Police Responsibility Act was a good thing, and he got all kinds of shit.
Yeah, yeah, he did get all kinds of shit. There was a pretty funny press conference this morning from the Republicans, and Lindsey Graham was out there just, I find the whole thing comical. They try to call the Dems out. Yeah, and it's like,
what's
really,
on your radar?
Seriously.
Well, Twitter melted down yesterday after Van Jones offered some incredibly lukewarm praise for President Trump's executive order on policing. Let's take a listen.
I think there are two things here. One is the speech and one is the executive order. The executive order is a good thing, and mainly because you saw the support of law enforcement there. That gives you a sense of where the bottom is, where the floor is for reform, and that floor is higher than it has been. There is movement in the direction of a database for bad cops. We've never had a federal database for bad cops. That's why these cops go all over the place.
No, we haven't had a federal database for bad cops. We have had websites in the past that highlighted all the, the injustices and the cops that have gotten fired, that are under indictment, things like that. But it's never been a federally sanctioned or backed sort of thing. I'm not surprised. Let's go ahead.
Why didn't this happen under Obama? It's not like this wasn't. These atrocities weren't happening during the Obama administration. How come the Obama administration made no attempts to start a national registry or do any kind of reform?
Because there was no anger built up because the person in the White House was perceived, not necessarily so, but perceived to be an advocate of that population. Since that didn't happen, I mean, this is the same thing that's going to happen if we get Biden in.
Yeah,
people will go to sleep. They'll think, okay, our backs are covered, and this kind of action is not going to happen. Where we have a blatant racist in the White House. Now, Biden is racist, but the regular media doesn't show how racist he is. The corporate media, they don't want to show him as a racist, but he is just as racist as Trump is. But people will go to sleep because they think he's a Democrat. He's got our backs, and this kind of action would happen. I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree, Chris.
Yeah, I think that, people, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Obama's black. He's not racist or whatever.
It's not that Obama's racist. It's just he doesn't care.
He doesn't care
about the underlings.
Yeah, he's
he
made
only
his
cared
money
about the elite and made it sound like he cared for the average working person. Those were just words. He didn't actually do anything.
Yeah, talk to your friend Graham Elwood about that. How he took care of Graham and all those homeowners that
talked to the Native Americans.
Yeah, exactly. Flint, Michigan.
Let it play out, and Flint, Michigan, taking that sip of water and then basically saying problem solved. Gone.
Yeah.
And when it wasn't even close to being solved.
Can you say sold
and there's
out?
Still people being lead poisoned and everything else.
That's the sellout on a scale that's just unconscionable.
That's why I almost want Trump more than I do Biden, because at least Trump's causing an uprising where I think just Biden would cause people to go to sleep. And that's the same thing. And people rail on Jimmy Dore about talking bad about the Democrats, but literally they all need criticism. No matter what side you're on, they all need criticism. Yep. And anger is what's going to cause people to stand up. And the most obnoxious, horrible person is going to make people stand up harder. And that's what Trump is doing right now. He's actually showing the ugliness of politics. Yeah, that's exactly. We need people to see that ugliness so they will rise up.
Point well taken. I know that you Trump's probably one of the last people that any of us would ever support, particularly. But your point is well taken. Trump is showing us that ugly face of what's really going on, where somebody like
he's not doing anything different than the others did. No. He's just he's just saying the quiet part out loud, as Jimmy Dore says. He doesn't say it quietly like he should, but
he's not candy coating it and hope and change and good speaking ability. Mm-hmm. He's just a psychotic freak, and so Obama can package it all, just nice for everybody. And I'll ask any of you again who raised your eyebrows at what Chris said. And again, she's not.
I'm sure I got in a lot of trouble with that.
Well,
no. Where would we be under Clinton?
Yeah,
where would we be right now if Clinton had won?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking.
I hate to even think.
I'll go even further back. Where would we have been had Clinton Bill Clinton not won back in the 90s, let's say
Oh,
Ross Perot
God.
won. I mean, that was the catalyst, because what Clinton did back in the 90s is he just put all Reagan's policies on steroids and sold what vestiges of the Democratic left that were for the people to Wall
Yes.
Street. So basically,
Sold the welfare queen thing,
all that stuff.
which I'm not for people having babies to be on welfare, to get more welfare,
Yeah.
because that actually happens.
Oh,
everybody's got
but-
it might happen in the urban centers, but I was one of those welfare queen that
I was
kicked
too.
off in
I mean-
92, and I wasn't popping out kids to get an extra $98 a month in food stamps.
No, I wasn't either, and it was a bad thing. I'm sorry, but I was on welfare for a while with my first child, when I wasn't married and didn't expect it, didn't have insurance, didn't have anything, was in beauty school.
What are you apologizing for being on a social safety net that's designed to help people like yourselves?
Right.
No, and I was pissed because of it wasn't hardly anything, and you couldn't even survive on what they gave you. I mean,
No.
$300. I got literally $300 a
Yep.
month.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
And so trying to who would want to be on that,
Yeah.
But I did know, because I'm in a Mormon society, it's like popping out babies left and right. And they would get not only federal funds, but they'd also get state funds for having more babies in their social security system, because that's what they want in the state. They want you to have more babies and more babies and more babies. And I didn't want to have more babies, honestly.
Wow.
So I did do that, but I actually knew women who would have more babies. In fact, one of my nieces did that, had another baby, just get more social security and state assistance. So it happens, and I'm not for that, but
It could have been done a different way, though. They could have
totally
actually
could have,
implemented schooling. Here I was 18 years old with a child, and I needed to go $50,000 in debt to get an education, to get out
Yeah.
of the system. That wasn't an option. It was go to work for minimum wage and get the hell off the system. So I went from $300 a month to $800 a
and
month.
then try to go to school while you're doing that.
And I
which,
did, for
which
many
I
years,
did
yeah.
too. Yeah. While working a minimum wage job around my full-time school, which was 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I did the
Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity.
I
heard
on the side. Yeah.
I heard a statistic yesterday, maybe you guys can qualify this, that every baby born is born automatically with $70,000 in debt.
Yeah, I've heard
I
that.
saw that.
That's
yeah.
crazy. I mean, and when I thought about it for a while, I go, how's that possible? But with everything you've got to go through in life, and you've got to basically borrow against your own future to even get ahead, they wonder why the younger generation's so pissed and out in the streets, not just because of George Floyd and the murders going on there,
No,
but
it's more about inequities all over the place.
all
It's
over.
not
They
just
have
about
no future as far as my generation. I'm probably the last that is able to, my generation, proportionally has the only ability of owning their own home. These guys come out, how the hell are they going to, even my daughter, she's got a decent job with, a corporation, but, I mean, she's maybe going to have the same kind of debt that everybody else has proportionally when you think about it, because the cost of housing, the cost of everything's gone up. And as you ladies know, when you were on the social safety net back when you were younger, that you have not got an increase, allowance of any proportion till today, 2020. Jesus Christ! Maybe you got $100 more, but the cost of living's gone up 300%. So
no, actually, it's gone down. Oz, I can tell you, $339 was my grant amount in 1992, and it's right around the same amount nowadays, even with all the inflation.
Whoa,
I've accepted the fact that I will never own a house, and I will never know the pleasure of owning a brand new car in America. The newest car I've ever had was 10 years old, and to me,
don't ever buy a new car, even if you can.
even if you could. But I've just accepted these things because they're not obtainable. There was a study that was published yesterday asking Americans about their happiness. Only 14% of Americans are happy and pursuing the American dream.
yeah, we're going to talk about that going out today. I thought that would be the good news, but it's really
Oh, good. You caught that one. Good.
Oh yeah,
I saw that too. Oh my gosh. And I've hardly paid attention to the news, but we pay attention to the same things. This was so funny.
Yeah,
it's like the same news headlines catch our eyes.
Well, that's
so
because
funny.
we look at the media that comes through the news that comes through social media. I mean, Jesus Christ, who wants to listen to the MSM? It's all corporate controlled and corporate owned. And
Oh
all this
no,
other
I don't
crap.
believe a word they say. It's all propaganda. As
Yeah,
far as I'm concerned.
I think that I'm not going to even play this clip any further, but because we're running. But they talk about how police have had 183% increase in funding versus anything else, where some municipalities have had no increase in funding for social safety net and everything else, and just taking care of it. That's insane. I saw some budgetary figures for cities like Chicago and some of the other places, and one of them was 80% of their, or what? No, it was 40% of their budget went to police, law enforcement, and the rest was broken up, just little bits and pieces for libraries and schools and foods. And yeah, it's just like, are you kidding me? So that proportion was, I think we've had a 30% increase in overall, people, and we've had 180% increase in funding for the police. I mean, the proportion's all out of whack, but I probably screwed that up. I want to jump over to the California fires, Pacific Gas and Electric. They, let me see if I can get this in here. Having a left-hand problem. They pleaded guilty to 84, what was it? 84 claims killing real humans, 84 counts of, did you guys catch this about the 84 counts that they pleaded guilty for in the California wildfires?
Yep.
Yeah, I caught that. Yeah, and they should have, but now they're just going to take a plea, and it'll be like a little slap on the wrist, even though.
Well, and they already filed bankruptcy, so they say they have no money to cover anything.
Well, is that how you get out of it? So when they file bankruptcy, I want to know who's going to jail. Who's going to jail for?
No one's going to go to
Silly
jail.
boy, elites don't go to jail.
Only the poor people go to jail. Jeez.
So
what are
they're-
you
Those are for rich
thinking?
people.
Yeah, I think
Oh my
Tom
God.
Hartman was wailing about this morning. Tom has his moments these days. I appreciate
He
it.
does have moments.
Yeah.
He does have moments. I had nightmares about Tom Hartman.
What nightmares? What?
No, really, I do. Like, because he's so good on so many issues, and then he gets one so wrong.
Yeah.
And I have nightmares about confronting him on it.
Why? I would put you. I'll say
And
again.
then his fans like getting all after me and saying, "No, you're wrong. Tom's always right."
Well, that's fandom, and that's another topic. I hope somebody does
Cult
this
of
on a
personality.
show. I mean,
I don't know why. Why does it bug me so bad?
well,
Why does
because
it bug me so bad?
you feel like the world's against Chris, and they're not, because you have us. You have us. We here who look at these, like, I would invite people from the Democratic Party, celebrities like Tom Hartman or Chris Iverson, social media people, because I have issues with them. But they have their little fan club that they can do no wrong. Now, these people in the fan club, I'm not discounting them because I'm part of that follower club, the fan club. And, Kim Iverson's one of them. Some of her stuff I agree with implicitly. But if any of you in this chat and any of you here think that you're going to agree with somebody 100% of the time, you better look in a mirror.
You better not, or you're freaking learning.
You're just you're a bobblehead. And I would think that these personalities like Tom Hartman and Kim Iverson, Graham Elwood, your friend Graham, and a lot of them, I think a lot of them are open to having that discussion. Whereas mainstream media, are you kidding me? That's all propaganda. They're not going to have the discussion. They're paid not to have the discussion. So
And I think, in a way, Tom Hartman is part of that.
the club.
Yeah, part of that club. And also Sam Cedar. I've recently had comments on an old video that I did criticizing Sam Cedar, and one of his big fans was like, "No, Sam's always right." And Jimmy Dore's the wrong one, and he has conspiracies. And I'm like, no, he has actual facts that lead to a hypothesis, not a conspiracy. Not a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Sam Cedar, however, has admitted to having an agenda and not presenting any information that goes against his agenda. That takes away all of his credibility in my eyes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I answered that comment.
And that's how you should answer it. I mean, I've got into it just in the chats because I'm nobody. But Sam Cedar's really good at polishing his little awards that he's gotten. And I
can't watch
and he
him
works
or
for
Pac-Man.
MSNBS.
Yeah, MSNBS. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad. At least I coined it MSNBS, and
Now we all call it that.
yeah. Now it's MSNBS because it is MSNBS.
And I actually used that in the comments.
I know you have. I've seen you do that, and I'm going, "Oh, Chris, I love it.
Chris, I think you probably at one point really respected Tom Hartman, and that's
Yes,
why
I
you have
did.
this residual like, oh, he let me down, he betrayed. Because I have
did.
that too. Like,
Yes, I followed him every day, just like I did Jimmy
I bought his
Dore and
books.
Bernie
Yeah.
Sanders and
Yeah,
everything.
I bought one.
And
of
when
Tom's
people
books.
disappoint you and they present in not just inaccurate information, and usually it's not so inaccurate as much as incomplete information.
Yeah.
So I want complete information, and he'll just present the facts that correlate with his message, with his agenda, and then just leave out really important facts. And people who do that, I lose all credibility for. I just do. And then
I get
like,
it, me too.
okay.
Well, yeah, I don't
I'm
watch.
done.
Yeah, I don't watch Tom like I used to. I used to listen to him all the time. But it was Pacific Radio, just like Air America back in the day. That's where I was listening to Sam Cedar and Janine Garofalo. I don't know what happened to Janine Garofalo. She probably got
she's
sick of it
still
and
around
walked
now.
away.
She's got a podcast, but NPR too. I used to every day.
Yes,
but now I
NPR.
can't listen to NPR.
Totally
you know?
disappointed.
Yeah.
Nope, not happening. Can't listen to
Yes.
them anymore. Pac-Man.
Oh, Pac-Man. Yeah, I
Pac-Man.
can't do Pac-Man.
He gags me.
Yeah.
I've
Pac-Man
never
done
been
in my
yeah.
eyes.
I've never been a fan of Dave Packman, although, I can't dispute a lot of his positions because he's right, but a lot of them he's just totally wrong. He takes the neo-lib side a lot. And I think what we're having today, folks, is we're having a water cooler show, and which is
Yeah, we are.
which is
Sorry.
fine.
Wasn't that
No,
just-
don't apologize.
Yeah, no.
This is again, we are talking to folks in the chat. How many of our group that goes around to all these shows and watches Cedar and watches Jimmy Dore and watches Kim Iverson, and that's fine because I don't
And then
see
the Rational National, I had my moments. Sorry, the Rational National, but he seemed to. He's
David.
friends with Jimmy Dore, so
Yeah.
he kind of David Dole.
Yeah, and him and Ron go at
He's
it.
kind of backed up some of his anti-Russiagate stuff, and
Yeah,
that's all a conspiracy. And he backed that up.
yeah. I think
So a lot more
yeah.
respect for David Dole of the Rational National.
Yeah,
yes.
me too. I know that he's gotten into it with Ron Polcone a couple of times. They've gone
Mm-hmm.
head to head, but they all have. I mean, Mike Federado, all of us, but we all, I
Kyle
think,
Klinsky.
Kyle.
Yes.
Kyle's been a staple. I think he's one of the longer running
Kyle's
ones.
still a staple.
Yeah, I mean, he gets like
Him and Graham and Jimmy.
Yeah, Kyle-
I don't think will ever lose me.
Kyle.
Right.
Kyle's got tons of
And
views
Ron.
on all of his stuff every day. He's been building this for 10 years. Got to remind that, and he
And
makes
Mike
sense.
Figueredo.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love Mike. I mean, and all of us were preaching to the choir. Hey, David Crow's in here. Hey, David.
I know
Crow.
David's up in the high Sierras. I'm so jealous. He's in a beautiful spot right now.
Oh,
Nice. Not
lovely.
too far away from me.
Yeah, the
So-
Bernie fan man, David Crow. We love our David Crow getting out in the streets and putting it to the man. So since we're on this topic of social media, Kim Iverson, she's been up for about a year and a half, like she said, and I was 1,140 numbers of subscriber. Now she's up to 254,000 subscribers, which is great. It's
She
great.
had a radio show. That's not even fair. She had a long-standing radio show.
Well,
before
yeah,
she did
I
this,
mean,
so she had a head start. She already had name recognition.
Yeah, and
with a lot of people.
Yeah, and again, I'm not keeping score. I'm not knocking.
And she's
Kim.
really beautiful. So
Yeah, she is. I mean, she's David
Discount
Dole.
that.
She's David Dole. They've got the looks. They've got the voice. They can speak. They offer good and viable information. But she made an announcement yesterday, and I'm just going to play a little bit of this. She was experimenting.
Yeah.
She was experimenting, and but she has a producer now, which is kind of funny, and we'll talk about that.
That deep dive stuff. It's been very exhausting just trying to get out, just trying to research and putting pieces together for you. So I haven't had the skill set or the time to make this show as polished as I would like it to be. Now with Israel on board, I finally will be able to do that. So over the next month and a half or so, we're going to be designing a new look to the show. Will the show change in content? No. You will still get the deep dives, the connect the dots.
She said
You're still
deep
going to
dive.
get all of that. It's just that the show is going to look a bit more like a show. Excited for that. One thing I'm also really excited about, Israel's got his ear to the ground. This guy knows everything that's going on in social media. He knows everything that's going on other shows, everything that's going on the news. What he can help me do is help gather resources and information to me to say, hey, did you see this that happened? Did you see this that happened? He's excellent at that. I get so bogged down and deep into the research that it's nice to have somebody kind of in my ear saying, by the way, this is what's going on in the world while you were in your cave researching.
Yeah, I mean, this is a point now. As I said in the green room, I reached out to Kim last year, about a year ago, and I said, hey, I can do this for you. But again, connecting with these people, and she's to the point now where she can afford to pay Mr. Israel. I can't remember his first name. Do you, Shanda?
No, gosh, she said it a couple times now.
But he's kind of a
Sorry,
libertarian, conservative bent sort of a guy. He has his own show. But long story short, I'm happy she's got a producer. But I want to say, I have two producers sitting right here in this show with me today. You guys look up news articles. You follow the news. You know what's going on in social media. The same thing that she's embellishing on is what we have actually been doing. Not to take away from what she's trying to do, because I think she's on the right track. But she brought this gentleman on her show, or made a couple of videos, and her following just cratered on her. They were screaming bloody murder. Oh, you're not going to turn this into another talk show or an engagement show, because we like your content the way it is. And like to your point, Chris, yes, she brought her crowd. She brought her professionalism from her radio show, which was about love, which is important, but not so much anymore. And she had a format. She just had the nice green screen in the background. She's good looking. She can speak. She can do research. That's what her crowd likes about her. So that's when they lost it, when they thought she was going to change it up. Well, she put the brakes on, because she did. She wanted to try things. Which, to my point, is we're trying things at Uphill Media with bringing on different shows, with having the Daily Dive, which is kind of a water cooler show. And we're introspect of all these other social media shows, particularly The Hill, because we get some decent news from them, but we're open to everything. But I just wanted to shout out in a positive way. Good for you, Kim. We're looking forward to seeing what you do with the show. It's evolving a show. And I hope that everybody agrees with my point in the chat, that we are not here to degrade. It's not a competition. For the love of God, I mean, who can we compete with? We're out here trying to get a message out. It's not competition.
And she's done an amazing job. She's done all that work by herself to make her show look that professional.
Yes.
Kudos to her, because I could never do it.
Yeah, you do a damn good job. This is why we like you. You're the natural progressive. I mean, you're in your office there, or your spare room or whatever, and you've got all your farm there, your horses. I mean, you're sharing part of your life, and that's what your followers enjoy about you. The same with Shanda, when she talks about herself and what she's doing and where she's living and everything else. We're real people. We're not puffed up, overpaid pundits spewing propaganda. I mean, for the love of God. And if you've got an hour once in a while during the week, come in and say hi, because I respect people who give the little people like us, their time and offer their opinions on things. So this is what I really like about doing the dive. Other than that, formatted shows like we have now with Savage Joy, the Unruly Hour. She came over from RP. We got Suzanne Murphy, Truth Be Known, that's out of Massachusetts, really straight shooting. And, the Accidental Activists, Going Great Guns. And now Shanda's just everywhere helping facilitate and evolve other shows. So I digress. I'm sorry I got into that. But I just wanted to make that point, ladies.
Yep.
That works.
We are the media, and
we
need your support. Yep.
Yeah.
We're the new media. We're the one that's going to take over.
Yeah.
And until they stifle us, but we're going to find ways around it, because we're smarter than the corporate media.
Yeah.
We are.
Well, I mean, we have critical thinking skills. We're not out just to sell bullshit. Now, here's one that Shanda had a friend from, was it Corvallis, Oregon, pop to her. This is the worst kind of satire, wouldn't you say?
I don't think it was meant to be satire.
I don't think so either, but it's just really, it's tough to watch. Now, this is the Police Lieutenant Tina Jones, lead public information officer for the Portland Police Bureau. I grew up in Portland,
I don't
Oregon.
think I've seen this.
Yeah, this is kind of, but
I've
just,
been to Portland.
yeah, Portland, yeah, my hometown. Anyway, let's hear what Tina has to say and watch the images in between the cuts and the verbiage.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Tina Jones, the lead public information
See if I can
officer
turn that
for
up.
the Portland Police Bureau. I wanted to take a minute to address some questions and concerns that have come up regarding interactions between the police and journalists, specifically during dispersals.
So it is your position that the press is not permitted in this area? It is your permission? All right.
PPB values our media partnerships and the foundation of freedom of the press. When a civil disturbance, unlawful assembly, or riot are declared, it's because criminal activity is occurring and that the area is not safe for anyone. As a reminder, all uses of force are reviewed to determine if they are within policy and the law. We continue to work with our media partners about the importance of following the lawful orders given by the sound truck, officers, and social media, so they can stay safe and avoid arrest or altercation. The unlawful orders apply to everyone without exception. Our primary objectives every night are to protect lives and create a safe space for people to exercise their First Amendment rights.
Trespasses don't matter. Trespasses do not matter. Sir, can I see your name, please? See my number. Your number. Keep moving. Your number. Keep moving. What about your name? What is your name, sir? You want to go to jail? Go. You're under arrest.
I want to thank journalists who are dedicated to keeping the public informed while following the lawful orders.
I am not resisting. I am pressed. You are twisting my right wrist, sir.
We are committed to providing vital public safety information to keep everyone safe and informed.
They just sprayed me! I'm down. I can't see. I was holding my chest passed out. Ah!
Because fuck your civil rights.
Great ending.
Yeah, this is not anything out of the norm. I mean, and they're going to say, well, you're not legitimate press. You know, you printed that on your printer in your garage and you're out here, whatever. How do they know?
They don't, and it doesn't matter if they're not participating in any violent acts. Any person, whether you're press or not, should be able to film what's happening with the police. And yes, they should. If they say get back, fine. But they should be able to film whatever's going on and stay there, not get arrested. I don't care if you're press or not. Shouldn't even freaking matter. Because nowadays, everyone's the press. We're all the press.
Yeah, we are the media, right? So there's still really large protests going on in Portland. They're still surrounding this justice center that they have down there. I was watching some live feeds out of there last night. And the police they don't care. They don't care. You could be a doctor, you could be an EMT standing there, and I honestly think they would bash you too.
I think they would. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe the uniforms, like the EMT, might get them to stop a little bit. But that being said, what would happen if people who protest fully have the capability to do this, many of them, if they showed up in riot gear with face shields and big bulky jackets that protected them from the police, would that be considered a sign of aggression? And would they start, really going after these individuals? Because
unless it's the right wing that has
if more than 3 people show up in a uniformed outfit, it becomes a riot and you're automatically looking at 10 years.
Okay, so your right of free speech is limited to the optics of what people around you do. So if we all showed up in yellow vests, we're going to get what you just said. What was that?
They could federally charge you if there's more than 3 that show up in a uniformed outfit of inciting a riot, and you can look at 10 years potentially.
So a yellow vest outfitted uniform, that could be considered a uniform, right?
whatever they deem a uniform. I'd have to look at the actual, language, but yes.
So we don't have any rights. We're under the police state. It's all fascism now, and we're just fucked. Is that it?
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding.
WASF.
The only counter, the only counter I would have to that would be is showing up in such quantity, such mass, that it made it impossible for them. And I still think they chip away at those leaders who are in the front of the crowd. I mean, someone like me, who's getting old and brittle bones and everything, I don't have the guts to get out there other than somebody pushing me in a wheelchair because I've got bad knees and legs and feet, and I would probably walk 10 feet and fall over anyway. But still, again, that's, this has got to stop. And what did you say the other day? Your votes don't count anymore, but what does count is getting in the streets. Is that, what was the quote, Shanda?
We have no power at the ballot. We have more power in the streets than we will ever have at the ballot box.
Absolutely.
I submit to you guys, that's the only power we have left is getting in the streets. And if we fall down on this, and I really don't think we're going to fall. I think it's just going to escalate and escalate and escalate until they do something very finite to keep us out of the street. Yep. Pandemic isn't necessarily it, but again, it's there. I want to jump over to, if you guys don't mind, we're running. The MSNB or NBC tries to team up with Google to destroy independent media. Well, this is nothing new, but here's a little clip out of that from The Rising this morning. They're talking about this, and I want to see why I clipped it here.
Yeah, I looked up this morning. Yeah. Google makes up somewhere around 73% of search advertising revenue. And then it's not like some one other company makes up the other 25%. The other 25% is all split. I mean, it is basically a monopoly. And so the real crux of the issue here is the power that they have to completely shut you down. And NBC is a bad actor and sort of ridiculous and embarrassing in all of this. But the bigger question is about that power. When you have something with that kind of control over information, over who can get heard and who can't, you almost have to think of it like a public utility in terms of how much you need to err on the side of neutrality, how much you need to err on the side of not taking action against any individual actor, because to do so is so incredibly devastating and draconian. You really have to have a very light touch and be incredibly thoughtful about those things. And there's no easy answers here, frankly. We don't know exactly, by the way, what's going to be in this DOJ guidance or push. So, to weigh in on whether it's a good thing or bad thing, we really don't know at this point. But it really comes down to power. When you have something that is essentially a monopoly, you have to either deal with it like a public utility or you have to break it up. I mean, that's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line, because the internet is, as far as I'm concerned, it has to be a public utility. But
it has to be at this point. It has to be.
Yeah, the corporate oligarch is doing everything because, again, I talked to you folks the other day on the show. In 2016, Uphill Media was growing leaps and bounds, hundreds by the day, hundreds. And I know there's this point of saturation on social media, but everything has been throttled down so bad. And you're going to hear Jimmy and Kyle and Kim and the rest of them, even, David. They're going to talk about how they're not getting the traffic, the analytics are down across the board. Bullshit. They're not down. They're just being shadow banned and blocked and just, demonetized and everything because they want to keep that down. They want to hold it where it is by the throat because they know that social media and our connection as a society to be human, somebody was talking about this morning, we're very social. And that's what this whole thing is all about, is reaching out and communicating with our friends across the country like we have here. So again, I got to say, every time this rears its ugly head with a big multi-billion-dollar media company like MSNBS or NBC, trying to stick it in us, they're doing a pretty good job, and we've got to be aware of that. What I would say is, go after them. Let's turn it around because our voices do matter. Send them letters and tell them to get off and fuck off and boycott them. Am I going to get in trouble for saying boycott? But yeah, we just don't patronize them. We talk about the trouble we have with buying from Amazon. They're about the only game left in town. The only game left in town on on mainstream media is MSNBS and CNN and Fox. Fox, who is openly a pro whatever corporation. But what do you ladies feel about that?
Chris, go for it.
Oh my God. I'm just so frustrated with the current media system. So I couldn't even go there without. I'm like, come on.
I know it's a no-brainer. It's just, we're just screwed. And however we can fight back, we need to keep doing it until they pull the plug on the internet. Because
yeah, we do. And going to Rockfin is one thing we can do, and hopefully they'll help until they find a way to cut us off of even connecting to Rockfin, because I'm sure after they get you off of YouTube and all that, the next step is to figure out how to get you away from those sites. I mean, look how they're throttling us on YouTube. Google is kind of in charge of the internet, and they could throttle that access to Rockfin. I mean, and look at what happened to my internet last Monday. It's like it was gone for a day, full day. My internet was just gone.
Yep.
So that kind of thing is going to happen more and more. Just be prepared. It will happen.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah.
Cheeseman's in the house.
Yeah, Cheeseman's here.
Hey,
I'm
Cheese.
actually thinking about launching a channel that is a political channel, but like I'm incognito, where I name it something like cats, and then we'll refer to like bad cats, and those will be the neolibs, and just so we can get past
Lots
the
of code
algorithm.
words.
Yeah, everything's a code word. I'll have like
Somebody did that. I'm trying to remember who did that, but somebody.
Yeah, you're right. They
tried
did.
that.
Yeah, I think we're getting into shades of French underground, and in our own country that's supposed to be a democracy. Are you effing kidding me? What is this that I have up, Chris? You gave this to me. Joe Biden gets a letter from 50 progressive groups.
oh no, I sent that to you.
Yeah,
I was like, no, I haven't sent you an article lately.
Shanda.
So.
Yeah, sorry, Shanda.
I'm trying to remember who this is. Who is this? Is the
This is Kit Hardlands Media. Kit Kano.
Oh, Hardlands.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Hardlands. Okay.
So a group. So all of our progressive groups, we're talking Our Revolution, and some pretty big progressive hitters decided to pin a letter to Joe Biden about police reform and the coming election. I just find it hilarious. So go ahead and roll it.
All right. Roll 'em. Rolling.
Liberal groups press Joe Biden to adopt progressive policies on police reform. So, about 50 liberal groups have signed on a letter warning the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden. So, the letter, which is signed by leading national progressive groups, including Workers' Families Party, Our Revolution, Black Voters Matter, urges Biden to adopt a 21-page policy proposal released by the Movement for Black Lives to promote reducing incarceration and scaling back police forces across the country. The groups are also asking Biden to drop his recent proposal to add $300 million in funding for the community-oriented police services program, which would hire and train additional police officers to patrol within the communities where they live. We make these demands first and foremost because we seek justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, as well as the other Black lives lost, and policies like these are what justice looks like in practice, the letter states. But we also make them with an eye towards the November election. You cannot win the election without the enthusiastic support of Black voters, and how you act in this moment of crisis will play a big role in determining how Black voters and all voters concerned with racial justice respond to your candidacy. A return to normalcy will not suffice, they wrote. The progressive groups were scathing in their assessment of Biden's record on criminal justice issues. In the course of your political career, you have designed and endorsed policies that have significantly exacerbated these problems. And again, look, this is something we talked about on the show.
Okay, so what's that going to do? Is that something that's going to have some teeth to it, or what do you think?
Yeah, it doesn't have any teeth to it. Does anybody actually think Biden gave a shit about this letter? And like Melissa H says, it got filed in the round file, Ben. We know that they don't care. But I am thankful that at least some progressive groups are actually at least putting it on paper,
No, that's good. I can tell you what's happening in the Salt Lake, not all of Utah, but Salt Lake. The Salt Lake City Police Department, their chief, stood with protesters against the right-wing policy. It is right because it was, I believe it came out of the right-wing Senate with the ban on chokeholds and the no-knock warrants. And so the Salt Lake City PD were for that. But my bullshit detectors going off like, yeah, okay, they're supporting the right-wing side. and maybe it's to keep the funding, but they did vote at the city council for a lower police budget, but
That's good.
we don't know what that entails. I don't know all the details of that yet, which I'm going to try and pay attention to. But yeah, I mean, my bullshit detector's going off. There's something behind this. This is, yeah.
Right.
I know too much about the Salt Lake City PD because my husband works on the police cars. Mentioned before on my show that my husband gets in there, when you open the door, it always says tactical, tactical, tactical. And that's not a term used for community policing or a peacekeeper.
No, that's a military term.
That's a war against the civilians. And I don't like that.
It's kind of
I know there's, and my nephew is also a police officer and a member of the SWAT team for Salt Lake City.
So you have inside information there on how the police works.
A little.
Yeah, it's kind of funny watching Chris talking
I took his brain.
Yeah, it's watching you talking there, Chris. Here's Shanda and Oz bobbleheading on each side of you in the frame. It's like, yeah.
I'm bobbleheading while you guys are talking too.
Yeah, it's fine, but we're all doing this now. This one Shanda gave me this morning. Now, what is this? This is how to say fuck.
Deb Della Piana.
Yeah,
we love Deb.
Yeah.
Deb can get you riled up in a heartbeat.
She's been on my show a couple times, by the way.
Has she?
Yeah, she has.
I've always respected her and loved her. Of course, she started as a Bernie supporter, like most of us, and then woke the hell up. Yeah, now she has a show called Ungovernables, but this show is called Shut the Fuck Up. And I love it. She picks something to call somebody out on, and this one's beautiful. It's still dealing with police reform and defunding, the actual word defunding, and so many people losing their mind over what it means. So
I can officially call her a friend of the show since she's been on my show.
Right on, yeah, friend of the show. Who's she calling out, and what's her favorite word here?
I'm not going to tell you who she's calling out because she sets it up beautifully, but you'll know by the end of the clip.
All right, here we go. Okay, Deb, let it fly.
Get ready. Let me pick up on what @Stacey Abrams just said. Hashtag defund the police slogan is being used to divide us. She called for transformation of police. That's much stronger than just reform, but not distracting like defunding. Hashtag transform the police is appealing to most people and sounds strong. End. What kind of fucking gobbledygook is that? Let me read that again. Please, soak this in. Let me pick up on what @Stacey Abrams just said. Hashtag defund the police slogan is being used to divide us. She called for transformation of police. That's much stronger than just reform, but not distracting like defunding. Hashtag transform the police is appealing to most people and sounds strong. Shut the fuck up, Jenk. Huh? You can't be fucking serious. We're worried right now. We're worried about how the words defund the police versus transform the police sound. Transform the police sounds strong. Transform the police sounds like a fucking marketing ploy. Transform is a big fucking marketing advertising word. You transform something, you make it better. It's better than defunding. And it's stronger than reform.
Exactly.
Because you're putting more letters in it. It's transform.
Oh, God. She's...
I love her so much. She's so honest. She's made me uncomfortable sometimes by some of her criticisms. And now I've realized she's right on so many things that I've fought against, mentally with the things she was talking about. I'd be like, no, Bernie can't. No, he's not a sheepdog. He's not. And now what do I say? Bernie was a sheepdog.
Yeah, you're right. She did call it. It was hard to watch her when Bernie was running because she called him out for it. Like
she did. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Yeah. And then, I mean, she really did call it. She was really prophetic in the things she was saying. And I should have listened to her and been more hardcore. I mean, I did, and I was, and then I got sucked into it again. It went back and forth, but yeah, I should have listened to her. I should have stayed strong with my own feelings.
Well, yeah, a lot of them, and Claudia Stuber, she was, she got burned out on Bernie. She never forgave him after 2016. And she said,
I really didn't either. I never.
I know, a lot of us
neither.
didn't. We were hoping for change. But obviously from what we found out, it just went the other way. They had infiltrators in his campaign that tanked him, and it appears that Bernie kind of knew it, and he kind of went along with it. For what reasons, I still don't know.
To be a sheepdog, it has to be. It has to be. I don't want to believe that about him, but that's the only reason I could see.
Yeah, I can't believe someone like Bernie, 40 years in there, would be so naive as to let this stuff go under his nose without spotting it. I mean, at this point, he should be the professor of politics in D.C. and being, cratered like he was by Chuck Rocha and Jeff Weaver, and others. It's pretty scary. I want to end up with a show on a happy note today. Is this unhappy or optimism, or what is this, Shanda? What the hell am I got up here? This is from the Hill this morning. They were talking about the happiness quotient, how today is probably...
This is not surprising.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not
Yeah.
at all.
All right, let's run it. I'll shut up. Here, I'll run a few seconds of it. See if we agree. Let's turn it up so people can hear.
Of Americans that has some pretty dire numbers here. This is from the COVID response tracking study conducted by NORC at the University of Chicago. And they found that just 14% of American adults say that they are very happy. That is down from 31% who said that in 2018. So a big drop. And it is the lowest level, so the least happy that we have been in 50 years, Soccer.
50 years since 1972, whenever this all began. And I mean, one of the stats in this is not all that surprising. It says that 23% say they'd often felt isolated in recent weeks in 2018.
Yeah.
Now that's over 50%. And no less than 29% of Americans have ever called themselves very happy in that survey. And you can see that drop there in particular. We have another one of a chart which actually just shows the very happiness number, which just shows a literal plummet right in the year 2020.
Look at
you
that.
can see there. I mean, it just goes and
So the one that
obviously
falls
surpassed.
falls off the cliff there, that's the number of Americans saying they're very happy. The one that spikes at the same time are the ones who say they're not too happy.
Right.
And actually there's a little uptick in those saying that they're pretty happy. But
Kind of interesting.
yeah, but it just, you can just see it just literally falls off a cliff. Essentially this year.
Yeah.
Not a huge surprise. I mean, not only are we dealing with crises on multiple fronts, but we are isolated in a lot of cases where we don't have the support systems around us, the normal social interactions. Look, humans are, we're social creatures. Yeah, so to be cut off during a really challenging time from your support system and structure is really, really difficult.
Well,
Yeah, we are social creatures. That's where I got that from this morning. Is
Yep.
I
I will have such a frustratingly different view than that. Sorry.
go for it. Have a frustratingly different view. I think I know what's coming. Come on, Chris.
I just think that people depend too much on artificial stimulation or commercialism, going to movie theaters, going to restaurants, going to
Consume.
malls, consuming. And then you have to suddenly stay home and just live with yourself. I think most people, because their happiness depends on outside things, that they don't even like themselves. And I like myself. I like hanging around with just me. I like hanging around in my backyard and enjoying the things around me, the bees and the insects and the dogs and other animals, the birds. I like myself and I like hanging around that. But if your happiness depends on going to a mall or going to a movie theater or going out to eat because you can't cook a really good meal at home, you're just too fucking lazy to do it, or you just like being waited on hand and foot. You have to do retail therapy to make yourself feel good instead of having real relationships with the people in your household or your close friends. There's a problem. And you know what? I don't feel bad for people and there are other reasons too. But I think that was the big drop off because we had all those other reasons before the pandemic happened. Before all that, there was tons of inequities. There was tons of people living paycheck to paycheck in that stress. just trying to survive, working 3 or 4 jobs. And I think the reason for the slight uptick in people that were okay happy is they weren't working 3-4 jobs at a time and not having to conform to societal demands, and got a breather. So that's my probably very unpopular take. So.
No, Chris, I agree with you. We do look for outside gratification because that's all we've been programmed to do for the last 40 years, you know? Going to the mall. That's how we were raised in the 80s, you know? You want a good time, you go to the movies, you know, you go out to dinner, and you're absolutely right. I'm so thoroughly enjoying quarantine. Can I tell you guys this?
Me too.
I hate going
Me
out.
too.
I love just hanging out in my yard, working on my flowers and my plants, and just being with my loved ones, knowing that somebody's not going to come knock on my damn door. You know,
that still happens here. We still have door-to-door salesmen coming in.
Oh my
Are you
gosh.
fucking kidding me? Yeah, it's a different world.
Just cough in his face, like, I'm sorry, not feeling well. But yeah, no, I agree. But it makes me sad because I see this next generation coming up, and they don't know any difference. They don't know to look on the inside for gratification, and they're going to even be more miserable as time goes on, because we know this shit show's not even close to over. We're going to see mass evictions here coming up in the next couple of months. So, you know, so many people are going to be in the food bank lines. You know, so many people have not gone to the doctor in the last 6 months to take care of maybe something that's minor, that's
Or
going
the
to turn into
dentist.
something major.
And then when they finally need to, the hospitals will be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Say that's going to happen. I'm getting as many tests done as I possibly can.
Get it out of the way now.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm 3 months over for my dental stuff. I mean, at my age.
Oh yeah, dental's not happening in this world because I have too many other issues to deal with.
Yeah.
And dental takes from that very valuable HSA money, and so my teeth have been neglected.
Yeah,
quite a lot
I'm
because of that.
I think
Because
I'm doomed.
Dental only covers 50%.
I know.
And then you use your HSA money, and then you don't have enough to cover your deductible, and then you have high. It's just fucked up.
Yeah, dental
It's just-
insurance
our
is
system's
a
fucked
sick
up.
joke.
The worst is yet to come.
Yeah, it is, and I gotta. Both of you made the point. We've been socially conditioned from birth to what makes you happy. Well, shopping, going to movies, going out to eat, being that social creature that we have been socially conditioned to be by stuff, by capitalism, by that aspect of it.
By entertainment.
By entertainment.
We're like little children that never ever had
Grow
to
up,
entertain themselves.
No.
Never had to play independently. That were always entertained by somebody. They come dependent on it. They're addicted
Right.
to it.
It's an addiction.
They'll never be able to self-soothe, you know, and just learn to just be happy with themselves.
Couldn't agree more.
And to entertain themselves.
Couldn't
I
agree.
learned that from a child because that was my life. I was the youngest child. I was completely ignored.
Yeah.
I had to go off and do things, and I loved it. I learned to really love nature and digging in dirt.
Yeah, and your channel, you showed that. What was that one you were showing the other day with the pots that you had? We were growing. What were those plants? You were walking around. You did a video.
Oh, that was my whole. Well, that was all my garden. It wasn't just one plant. So
Yeah.
the Three Sisters garden is my pride and joy.
Oh, okay.
That's the corn, beans, and squash,
Mhm.
and it is just exploding right now. It's just so
My
beautiful.
squash is doing good too.
Well, yeah. Would you
Squash is doing great. Beans are doing amazing.
Yeah.
All the pots that I had beans in, that I just planted. There was nothing yet. All of them sprouted now.
Yeah.
It's like
So you got
they're
your
all like this big already.
Yeah,
It's
so's
a
Joey.
place.
Joey's got hers. They're growing, leaps and bounds. Our corn's getting ready to shoot straight up. But,
That's something everyone needs. Sorry, I was to improve your. Just grow something. I don't care.
Grow
if you just do
something.
it in
Grow
your
weed.
windowsill. Grow something. When you see that seed sprout, it's a new life and not a human life that's going to consume. It's a plant life that's going to give in so many ways.
Yeah.
So just grow something.
Yeah.
Grow something.
Do
great.
some good. That's
Grow
yeah.
pot.
Yeah, grow weed. Grow pot. Yeah, and
If you
You'll be
can,
happy.
if you have seeds.
Yeah,
which
hemp.
is
Yeah,
hard
grow-
to get your
grow
hands
all
on
it,
here.
yeah.
But
It is
anyway.
hard, yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously, I agree with both of you, and I'm sure the majority of the group here. So what you're both saying is the glass half full with this pandemic lockdown is that some of us are becoming more in tune with what's really around us and what's
really important.
What's really important.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good way to leave the message. And Shanda, another Another music outro pick. Hopefully we won't get booted completely out of YouTube for this one. It should be fair game, YouTube, we hope. If we're not, I'm sorry, but blame Shanda. This is, what is a Sick Like Me? This is the In This Moment. Violet Orlandi, she's fantastic. And we want to thank everybody. What do we got going on real quick before we head out?
Women's Wednesday tonight.
Women's Wednesday
tonight. The Natural Progressive. Tomorrow we got the Unruly Hour with Savage Joy, and then followed by the Accidental Activist. And I just want to say, ain't no power like the power of the people. Get your asses in the streets.
Yeah, get out there. And what do you do on your show when you close your show, Christine? What is this?
Live long as you can and prosper.
Yeah.
Bitches? Is that bitches? You say live long and prosper, bitches? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Live long and
bitches.
prosper,
Yeah, you gotta have the
bitches. Yeah, you
bitches.
gotta have
Live
the
long and
bitches.
prosper, bitches.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Oh, and if you come to my show tonight, things that must go, things that you just
Things
need
that
Oh
must
yeah,
go,
things that must go.
that just have to go away, like things that bug the crap out of you. Doesn't matter how trivial. Sometimes the trivial ones are more fun and lighten the mood. And then the other one is We Are So Fucked moment.
Okay.
And that could be political, that could be environmental, that could be anything. Just
Yeah,
So
just make
remember
sure.
those two things. Come with those two things because we'll be reading comments.
Yeah,
And
make sure it's just not Oz, please. Oz does the work for these shows, engineering. so.
Never.
Okay.
Never.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you tonight on the Natural Progressive on Women's Wednesday.
Is it sick of me to need control of you? Is it sick to make you beg the way I do? Is it sick of me to want you crawling on your knees? Is it sick to say I want you biting down on me? Are you sick like me? Am I beautiful as I tear you to pieces? Am I beautiful? Even in my ugliest, you always say I'm beautiful. As you tear me to pieces, you are beautiful. Even at your ugliest, I always say you're beautiful and sick like me. Is it sick of me to feed the animal in you? Is it sick to say I tease the hunter like I do? Is it sick of me to watch the wicked way you thrill? Is it sick to say